Good evening. Would you please stand for the invocation and pledge of allegiance? Councilman Rogers.
Let us pray. Our God, our Father in heaven, we thank you for this day, for all the blessings that you have given to each of us. We pray tonight that you will be with each of us and help us through this pandemic safely. We pray tonight you'll be with us and guide us as we go about the business of the city. We continue to pray for those serving the armed forces abroad and at home during this crisis. Be with them, guard them, protect them. These things we pray in Christ's name, and amen.
Amen. Councilman Elam, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We have had one person to ask to speak this evening, Brenda Powell.
Brenda Powell, thank you for having the opportunity to speak this evening. I just had a couple things that I wanted to mention. One is actually Spencer's Landing, and the fact that I had some actual people that are interested, and I thought I'd bring it up to council. The possibility of maybe having some type of festival at some point. Might not be able to have it this year with everything that's going on, but maybe next year, if not spring or summer, or spring or fall, spring, summer, fall, around there, whenever we can. I don't know whether or not there might be a possibility if there will be an ADA compliant restroom down there for individuals, but we can hope that maybe with the CDBG funds that maybe can be purchased. Don't know, but it could bring money into the city with having the festivals like they do down in Parkersburg. I thought maybe it might be a possibility that this, council might think about that and consider it. The other thing that I wanted to bring up was actually the John Mansfield property. I was hoping at some point we would get an update on that and where things stand with it as far as the testing and that stuff. Also with the PCB, I had a question in the fact that maybe possibly there might be somebody else that can be responsible for the cleanup of that property, like the electric company, or maybe even John Mansfield company themselves. There might be the possibility that could be looked into or maybe considered. I don't know. Jim, you might know maybe more about that. But I just thought I'd bring that up too, that might be a possibility that we could have somebody else pay for that cleanup instead of the city having to pay for it. So that's all I wanted to. Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to call to order this regular session of the Vienna City Council for May the 14th, 2020. Let the record reflect that I've taken roll, that all members of council are present. Having a quorum, we will proceed. The minutes from the special council meeting held on April the 21st, 2020 have been printed, posted, and circulated. Are there any corrections to the minutes? If there are no objections, then the minutes will stand approved as posted. Report of the treasurer, Councilman Leach.
Thank you, Mayor. I've been provided reconciliation funds from the City of Vienna dated May 11th, 2020. I've reviewed the accounts appear in order and the city is financially sound.
Thank you. On our agenda this evening, we have no unfinished business. We have 3 items under new business. The first one is a resolution on the CDBG program. So, Tony, I will turn it over to you.
Good evening. You may recall I was here a few weeks ago and we discussed the possibility of setting up a small business relief fund program using the, excuse me, CDBG COVID-19 funds, which the city received as a result of the CARES Act, which allocated additional CDBG funds for COVID-related projects. And the city will actually be receiving $63,506, and any project that the city does has to meet one of the 3 national objectives, which is either benefiting low and moderate income people, eliminating slum and blight, or a national emergency. But in addition to that, because these are COVID related, the project also has to somehow be related to responding to or preventing the spread of COVID related within the city. We looked at various projects and came up with, again, developing the Small Business Relief Fund program. It will provide small businesses who have either had to shut down because of COVID related or have, had to lay off people or whatever the circumstances might be, that has caused a disruption in their services. It will provide them with some funding. A business, I should say, could get up to $5,000 working capital, and then they could get an additional $500 for each low to moderate income full-time employee that they have. But the maximum amount is $10,000. A business cannot have any more than 25 employees. However, we are putting a priority on businesses that have 10 or less employees. So we really want to help the small businesses. The business must have been in operation for at least 1 year prior to March the 1st of this year. They must be in good standing with the city in terms of having their fees and water bills and everything up to date. And again, they can have no more than 25 full-time equivalent low moderate income individuals, with a priority on those that have 10 or less. The loan program will be operated by the Mid-Ohio Valley Regional Council so that it will not be done by anybody here at the city. A person could go online and be able to fill out the application. It's then reviewed by the regional council that has many years of experience in many different types of loan programs that they oversee. The money is going to be given to a business in the form of a grant, but if they do not meet the requirements within a 90-day period, then they will have to pay a portion of that back to the city. Again, it will vary on each individual project that we work with. So right now, or when I was here earlier, we had hoped that, okay, we will have the program up and running this month. But I should have known better from working with the federal government for many, many years. Nothing moves that quickly. So we are now hoping that it will be sometime in June that will be open. We have to go through many steps of getting it approved tonight, then goes to the HUD Pittsburgh office. They have to approve it. It then goes to Washington HUD. They have to approve it. Once all the contracts are signed, then they put money in the city's line of credit. So the wheels of government move slow, unfortunately. So we are hoping that it will be sometime in June. I am sure that once everything is approved, the mayor will be more than happy to do a press release or a press conference, and it will be online so that people will know that the funds are available. Another thing that the program will be looking at, and HUD is placing a lot of emphasis on this, is what's called duplication of benefits. Will be asking a business, have you applied for other financing? Has it been approved, or why didn't you apply for it? So I think each of you received a copy of the proposed guidelines, the proposed application. Keep in mind that that's a draft form. HUD can always change it. The regional council can always come back and say, hey, we need to ask for other information. So that's just a draft. It's probably 90% of the way it will end up. But just if you see one and it's a little different, that's why. So purpose tonight is to get your approval so that we can pass it on to the HUD Pittsburgh office. But I'll be glad to answer any questions.
I got a question, Tony.
Yes, sir.
I've had a number of businesses contact me, Tidbits, Jill's Dance Studio, Gymnics, Carlos, Sherry's Custom Fitness, and Elkie's Diner. I mean, how much influence do we have as councilmen, or what the process is of, because I would love to see, I mean, our allocation of funds, I mean, it's $63,000, instead of giving a couple businesses $5,000, $10,000 to break it up into, you know, $2,000 for some of these businesses would be great, you know, so how is that going to be decided, the allocation of the money?
I mean, the maximum amount that we put was $10,000 is something that we just came up with. If council wants to lower that amount to $5,000 a business, that's up to you. Parkersburg has joined theirs at $17,000 because they have more money than Vienna has.
So I just think there's an opportunity for because we are a small business, you know, instead of helping out the big players, you know, these local businesses, it would be nice to give them a portion of this pie, just so we could divide it up. We have a number of loan businesses here in Vienna, obviously you guys know that, and just to help the small guy out a little bit.
Well, no, originally we had it at 17.5, and then when we did the math, it's like, hey, that's not going to help that many businesses, so that's why, I'll be honest, I just arbitrarily lowered it to 10,000. But if you want to lower it and council votes on it, that's fine.
I don't know how it's probably, but I think about, you know, you $63,000, you give 2,000 to Carlos, 2,000 Gymnics, you know, all these things. I just don't know the process, so that's why I wanted to talk about how it rolls with giving these people money.
Well, they're going to have already not, I'm sorry, let me try this one more time. They wouldn't qualify if they've already applied for like the Paycheck Protection Program. Is that
Depending
correct?
upon if that's fulfilled all their needs, then they would not qualify, correct?
And then you could change, the council could make an amendment and move to change the amount. I don't think council could specify or specifically approve businesses, but they could change the amount to $5,000.
Right, that's why we were having the regional council do it, so it takes any politics out of it or favoritism out of it. They're gonna look at it strictly on the numbers.
And
So, Mike, would it satisfy you if we said that the minimum amount would be 2,000 and the maximum amount would be 10?
I don't know, that's up to you guys. I mean, I thought about if the maximum was 2,000, you know, that's 30-some business we could help, you know, but maybe that's, I guess, how do we do that?
Well, actually, so, I don't know if this mic's.
I don't think it's on.
It is, it should be Jim if you speak into it.
Yeah, it's switched on. But anyway, so will we know our total pool of applicants at the time of award? So that, for example, if we have, you know, 15 businesses, we know that qualify and meet the criteria. Then is there a method to make the distribution effort once we know the total pool? So we know, you know, based on need and based on number of applicants, then kind of, you know, because if you make an award of 10,000, you know, to 2 businesses today, and then 15 more apply tomorrow, and we've already spent 20 to 63, will we know all at once? Or if we award all at once for the total number of applicants, and then be able to kind of make a distribution based on total number of applicants and demonstrated need?
What our goal is let's just say hypothetically it started June the 1st, which it's not going to, but say it did. We would say applicants have to be in by July the 1st, so that applicants would have 30 days in which to apply. Then the regional council would start reviewing the applications at that time.
And so the distribution will be made to get
Yes,
at once, okay.
yes.
What other-
Assuming we have enough qualified applicants, because the big thing is duplication of benefits, that they want to see that, A, you did try to take advantage of other programs, And if you did receive the money from those programs and you don't really need this money, then you probably wouldn't qualify.
One other question I have that I didn't note in the documents of it. So what if you have somebody that's a sole proprietor, self-employed? Because this talks about employees.
Now, it does say that they can be a low to moderate micro business owner.
So it could be, I know we've got a few one-man bands.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
They would be eligible.
Assuming everything else fell into place, yes.
As far as the allocation goes with the money, if on the application form itself, if let's say that business number one says, I would like to have $3,000, and business number two says, I'd like to have $5,000, and then business number three says, well, I'd like to have $10,000, okay? Typically, when the regional council reviews the amount of applicants based on the number of dollars that are there, they look and see how many dollars can be allocated to the various people, because you have to tell what you're going to use this money for, and that could be part of that right there. Some of the businesses, I know, Mike, the ones that you mentioned, they're not really large businesses, so they probably wouldn't ask for $10,000. Okay, but if you had a number of them said, look, I really could use $3,500, then you might be able to fit 4 or 5 of those into that window. And if one of the medium-sized ones said, I really need $10,000, you might be able to do that. So I don't think one size fits all.
It does not, that's correct.
Okay.
So the applicant has the opportunity to request a specific amount?
Well, we tried to have a maximum level so
Right.
that somebody's not going to say, hey, I want all $63,000.
Right.
So, but yeah,
Tony, do I understand it correctly that there's a base of $5,000? And then
Again-
it could potentially get another $5,000 by having 10 qualifying employees at $500 each? Is that the way it works?
that's just the way I wrote it.
Okay,
It
but
can be-
that is the way it's presented
yes,
to
but
us
those
at
numbers
this
can be
time.
changed, yes.
So the base is 5, and to get above that, it's based on qualifying employees. the
That
way
is
it's
correct.
presented to us now,
To a maximum of 10.
to a maximum of
Right,
10.
that's what I had, maximum of 10, but if you want to change it to maximum of 5 and lower those numbers, it's really up to you.
So if they had 2 qualifying employees, they would get potentially $6,000.
Correct. Assuming everything else worked, yes.
Correct.
Yeah, however we have to do it, just to spread this money out to as many businesses. If they take the time, because, there's a 3, 4 paid application, if they take the time to fill it out, like I say, we can meet all their needs. I know we can't get the $63,000, but if we could satisfy, as many businesses as we can equally, that would be phenomenal for our city, I think. So however we go about doing that.
I mean, you don't really need a minimum amount. That maximum cap is what you really need to worry about.
Yes. Russ has a question, Tony.
When we were talking about the fees, the fees you're talking about, the license fees and so forth, that also includes B&O. They can't be in arrears for their B&O taxes as well.
Correct, as of December 31st, 2019.
Okay.
Tony, let's hypothetically say we put the cap at $5,000,
Okay,
and we did not have 12 qualifying applicants, and there was money left over in the pool. What happens with that?
this grant is actually good until 2022. So we would just maybe wait a month or so and
So somebody
then
could come back.
come back.
For an additional
Also with the thing, who knows if the virus is gonna come back this fall again or winter or whatever, so, the money is there for 2 years. But we just wanted to try to get it out as quickly as possible to help those who are in need.
I mean, I kind of like the idea of maybe like a $5,000 cap where you could potentially help a dozen different businesses, which I think is kind of what Councilman Elam is saying as well. I mean, at the way it's presented now, you could potentially, only help, half a dozen different businesses.
Depending on what they're asking for,
Depending-
you're right, yes.
exactly. So I think, the odds are if it's at 10 and, we end up having 6 qualified applicants, at that point in time, the money's gone. But I think there would be a potential to help and I'm kind of repeating what Mike is saying, there's a potential to help more people, I think, if that number's lower, even if we don't use it on the initial, and we have another year or so to
Right.
utilize the rest of the funds.
Yeah, and a lot of it would be depending upon how the economy goes, you know, maybe.
And we have no clue.
We have no clue, and that's why it's a 2-year time period or a 2-year grant, and if it, you know, is used all up in the first 6 months, then
And I guess that's another reason, because we have no clue, I would kind of like to see maybe just be a little bit more on the lower end of it. going
Okay.
in.
I would agree with that.
That was kind of why I asked the question, do we have a pool of applicants available at the same time to measure that? And so, I don't know, you know, because even though the cap is 10, when you see the qualified pool of applicants, and you may have a business that really has a demonstrated need at $10,000 that's gonna make an impact. And so that gives the regional council that flexibility, even if, you know, so that if there is someone that really demonstrates a need, that they need to cap out at that 10. So I think that discretion is gonna be that you get to look at them all at the same time, and then we're not gonna artificially limit a business who really does have that need in this PPP or whatever might be the case. So,
well, we're going to have to put
what's your
some.
advice in light of what we said?
Well, I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I have no problem with switching it to $5,000 being.
I know, but my question is, would it grant more flexibility if we left it at the 10, and then if we have a large number of applicants, obviously, you're really gonna have to demonstrate that need to get to 10, right?
That is correct.
So I think if we left that.
Hey, excuse me a minute.
To their discretion.
So we just got a message that they cannot hear you, Mike, or you, Jim. Would you make an effort to speak into your
I
microphone?
don't think, I'm on. I don't hear you. I don't hear you. So,
But-
I don't think we're on. My mic's switched on.
Thank you, Jim.
Anyway, that's my thought, so, in case that need does manifest and.
But once we vote on that and we establish that rate, we're pretty much locked into that. you
We
know.
would have to come back later and change the amount if you felt that. Say we do it the first month and you don't get hardly anybody because they say, hey, it's too much work for a little bit of money, and then you might want to change
So
it.
then
yeah.
we could come back a month from now, once we see what the pool is, and change the dollar amount? Is that what
It
I'm
would
hearing?
not affect the pool that's, I mean,
Already-
these people,
Already been approved.
correct.
So if they've got their application in, okay, and we would come back and make a change, did I understand you that it would not affect that particular group that has already applied for the grant?
Correct. I mean, if I put in my application June 1st hypothetically, and the regional council reviewed everything and granted me $5,000, I would not be able to come back again and ask for an additional amount.
But at the same time, I think what you're saying is if they approve 2 applicants at $10,000 and we come back at a later date, that doesn't, $20,000 is gone. It
That's
doesn't
correct.
affect
Once it's
those
approved,
two-
it's approved,
those
because
two
there's gonna be loan
$10,000.
closing documents and liens on certain things, yes.
Jim, would you repeat your remarks again? I didn't get a chance to hear them very clearly.
Okay, am I on now?
No, you're not.
It's on the bottom. Should be-
Hello?
Yes, there you
There
go.
we go. All right, so my point was,
If the regional council has the discretion and they have the entire pool of applicants at the same time to be considered. And if you have a business that demonstrates a need and they recognize that at $10,000, and they get to compare everything together. And so I think that leaving it at the 10,000, and then if you've got a number of applicants, obviously all of that's gonna be weighed. And so I don't see why we should artificially limit it at 5, when they get to consider everything together. And because then you could really have somebody who is a strong, small business, needs the 10, you know, they may give them 7,500 because there's just not enough. So
Okay.
I would suggest that the numbers that you have proposed, as the cap, which can be reduced based on the total demand, seem to make sense.
I mean, for each application, the regional council's gonna do an analysis. It's just not gonna say, hey, Tony Tiana's asking for $10,000, here's your check, thank you very much. And if you look at the application, there's a fair amount of work that a person has to turn in. And like I said, the regional council has been reviewing applications from other loan programs for many years, and they have the expertise to look at them and figure out what needs to be funded.
So I think leaving the discretion at 10, based on all that, makes some sense.
Tony, would there
Yeah.
also be a possibility that some of those businesses, the small businesses, would not qualify?
Yes.
I mean, even though they are small business and less than the number, some of the criteria is there, but they might possibly not meet some of the other criteria?
That is correct. I mean, if a small business, let's just say hypothetically, never applied anywhere else for financing, HUD is very big on that we cannot duplicate benefits. And if a business, for whatever reason, chose not to apply for like the payment protection or, or anything like that, then that does not look favorable to HUD.
Well, the other thing, Tony, is not everyone that applies will get a loan.
That is correct.
I mean, you have to be, qualified. So just because you apply does not entitle you to funds.
That is correct. And there's also the thing, I mean, you hope nobody has to pay it back, but if they would have to pay a portion of it back, then that kind of goes into like a revolving loan fund. If somebody paid the city back $5,000, the city could turn around and loan that out to somebody else at a later date.
Mr. Conley, do you have another question?
No, not really. I'm just kind of sitting here thinking about what everybody's saying and thinking that, and I guess it's as broad as it is long. I was going to make the comment that, the larger, and we're talking about 10 employees, so that's not large, but the ones like you're talking about, Jim, probably is the ones that would have been more apt to apply for and gotten the payroll protection plan too. Probably. I mean, there's no way of knowing that, but I would guess that would be the case. So those would not.
Right, and that's something they, on part of the application, they have to explain, did they apply for, anywhere else? Were they approved? Were they turned down? Or why didn't they apply?
Or you may catch some people that didn't get their applications in before the funds ran.
You need to speak into your mic, please.
You might catch some people that didn't get their applications in before the funds ran out too.
Right, or, yeah, you're correct.
Yeah, you've seen banks that
Yeah,
basically queued people up and didn't get them put in,
yeah.
and so they tried.
I think this is one of them deals, there's not a right or a wrong way.
I agree on that, yes. And it's the first time we've ever tried to do something like this, so it'll be a learning experience for everybody.
So if we do the resolution in a minute and we approve the plan as you've presented it, if there is an option to amend it, to lower it, is that where you want it done in the approval of this resolution?
Yes, because whatever we approve tonight, I have to send to HUD.
Gotcha.
So, the quicker we get the information into HUD, the quicker they're going to give us a turnaround time and say, yes, it's approved. If we send it in one way and then next week I send them an amendment, it just muddies the water.
Okay. All right. Let me read the resolution, please. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Vienna that the following project be included in the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 Grant Application. Number one, the Small Business Relief Program, the SBRP, retention of low to moderate income jobs in businesses affected by COVID-19. The total amount is $63,506. Upon adoption of this resolution, the City Council of the City of Vienna hereby adopts the amended 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan for its Community Development Block Grant Program and its 2017-2021 5-year consolidated plan. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution to, for the project included in the 2019-2020 Community Development Block Grant COVID-19 grant application.
And that includes the SBRF program guidelines that are in the Dropbox dated May 7, 2020.
Yes, because did you not read that big 200-page document we sent you?
Got it right here,
Yeah.
Penny.
Right there.
Yeah. But I'm just saying it has the
Right,
for
it
purposes
references.
of the record, I'm saying
Yes.
we're
Okay.
incorporating it.
I'll entertain a motion for the approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the Small Business Relief Program. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution for the Small Business Relief Program and the the adoption, including it in the amended 2019-2020 Annual Action Plan and the 2017-2021 5-year Consolidated Plan. All those in favor, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. You good?
Yeah, I'm good. No, I was just here
No,
for
no.
the second item,
No, we're
too.
moving on. You're
So I was
still
just
there.
I was just gonna stand here, yes.
Okay, great.
The second item is a resolution to the Citizen Participation Plan. With the CDBG program, anytime that we want to do anything, we have to do a legal notice in the paper that has to be there for at least 30 days. And then we have public hearing, and then it has to come to council, so on and so forth. Because of the urgency of trying to get the COVID-19 funds out, HUD has allowed cities to reduce the 30-day period, excuse me, to only a 5-day period. We had to request waivers for that, which we did. We held our public hearing on Tuesday. It was in the newspaper for 5 days. So they're kind of putting us on a little bit of a fast track. Keep in mind that those changes are only good for the COVID-19 funds. If it's the regular CDBG funds, we still have to follow the 30-day notice and so on and so forth. But this is just an amendment to the Citizen Participation Plan to allow for a shorter legal notice time period, and for meetings, public hearings to be held by virtual live stream if that's what is required.
And this is by their recommendation.
Yes.
Okay. Let me read the resolution. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Vienna that the city's Citizen Participation Plan for its Community Development Block Grant Program be amended to adhere to the new public hearing procedures added as a result of COVID-19. These new procedures reduce the public notice from 30 days to 5 days and allows for virtual hearings. These changes only apply to the COVID-19 funding. I'll entertain a motion for the approval of the resolution with the time change.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the resolution. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the resolution reducing the public notice time from 30 days to 5 days and allowing for virtual hearings, please signify by raising your right hand. All those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Tony, thank you very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
And I'm sorry, but I'm going to ask you to leave. We're over our limit of people that are allowed, so thank you very much.
Thanks, Tim.
Yeah. There you go. The last item on our agenda this evening is a request from the Parks Department. Mr. Leach, you have a report from the Finance Committee? Hey, Jim, would you take my seat to do that, please?
I got it right here.
It's,
No, no,
it's
take
not
my
coming
seat.
across.
They say they still can't hear you.
Yeah, it's not
So
coming
just
across
trade me
well.
seats.
Okay. I Ooh, mayor for
That's
that.
exactly right. Jump right in there.
Mayor for a day.
Eight by 10 glossy.
So on the agenda, we have a request for a new hire for the Parks Department that's been submitted by Department Head Steve Black. He has provided both a letter to the Budget and Finance Committee. It was considered Budget and Finance, forwarded to Council for review. The circumstances of this are that this employee has been employed on a temporary basis now for about a year through ManCan at $14 per hour, times 2,080 hours for a total salary of $29,120. There is a markup with ManCan to cover the payroll taxes and so forth. And Steve has given us the breakdown of the new hire, which is the same employee, which was in the minutes from the Budget and Finance Committee, as well as I believe the letter was circulated to all members of council, discussing both the reasoning for this new hire as well as the cost differences between retaining this employee through ManCan versus bringing him on as a full-time employee. The new hire would be at $11.89 an hour times 2,080 hours for a total salary of $24,731.20. Excuse me. The FICA city share would be $1891.94. Workers' comp and long-term disability estimate would be $1,500 for a total employment compensation of $28,123.14. Which would be a savings difference, at least in the first year, of $996.86 over what is currently being paid to retain the employee through ManCan. Also noted that the new hire will not be eligible for city pension until after the first year. Is currently covered by his father's health insurance until and can be for 5 years until he reaches 26 years old. So it's anticipated that that expense, of course, that could change for a number of reasons, but that's currently a point to be noted. Also, Steve has talked about the value of this employee, both with respect to his ability to work in conjunction with existing Parks Department employees and his contribution to that team. And therefore, based on that information, it was the recommendation of Budget and Finance that we forward this to council for consideration to bring this ManCan employee on as a full-time new hire. And of course, there was discussion and consideration with respect to the COVID issue about bringing a new employee on. But for the reasons that have been offered by our department head, Steve Black, it was forwarded to council unanimously by the Budget and Finance Committee for consideration. What's your chair back?
Steve, you got make any comments?
No, does anybody have any questions? Jim covered it pretty well.
Yeah.
Jim, thank you.
Go ahead, I'll give 6 feet.
In our previous discussions about new employee hiring, it was determined that the HR department, with the approval of city council, would approve all new positions. This particular gentleman has been with the city for over a year. We got into a problem 3 years ago with the Department of Labor because you cannot have a temporary employee for that long. If he's under your direct supervision and all the other things that go with it, he basically is your employee. And if you all recall, that's why we had the dispatchers come as city employees, and you basically cannot keep people on the rolls as a temporary employee for that length of time. So that is my take on this thing here. This has been an excellent employee, and we would like to keep him. So I would entertain a motion for the approval of the hire of the temporary employee that is now in the Parks Department.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded that we approve the hiring of the temporary employee to a full-time position with the city. Is there any discussion?
I think everybody probably knows where I stand on this. This is absolutely, in my opinion, no time to be hiring people. We're in a point in time that we should not be giving pay raises, we should not be hiring. We have no clue what our budget shortfalls are going to be. I understand that it looks like at face value there's a slight savings. That could change next month. I understand the gentleman lives with his father currently, and that, you know, literally that could change next month. It's just absolutely not the time to be doing that. And you know, before this is over, folks, we don't know where we're headed with this. Before this is over, we may end up laying employees off. Certainly hope it doesn't come to that, but to continue giving pay raises during this pandemic, to continue hiring through this pandemic, is just something that I absolutely cannot support.
You know, I'll speak loud, speak loud. I like Steve as department head. I'm on the Parks and Rec board, and he's done a phenomenal job with what he's done with Parks and Rec. And you're doing a phenomenal job. But right now, like I say, with the unknown and add another employee, it's just maybe on down the road. But I think right at this time, it's just a bad time to be presenting to ask for another city employee, because you know, talking about the insurance, is that as long as that is insurance, like a change tomorrow, and I know the package we have with our employees is great. I want to keep that with them. But like I say, the whole thing with the hiring right now at this time with the unknown, it's just not a good time to be hiring an additional employee.
I'm just gonna go to Mike.
Thank you, Jim.
You know, I share the concerns of Councilman Conley, Councilman Elam, and I think there's a couple of, and I've given this considerable thought since we moved it forward in budget and finance. One of the things that Steve mentions is, you know, in the last year, he's gone through 9 of these temp employees. I think anybody that has small business and employees know the value of retaining people who actually make a contribution that you can depend on. I don't know either what's going to happen with COVID and what's going to happen with our budget, our revenue streams. You mentioned that we may end up laying employees off. And I expect that this employee, as well as our employees, know that we're all at risk for this economic downturn. On the other hand, I believe in showing confidence in moving forward with respect to the function of the city. We're coming right into the season. COVID is not going to stop the grass from growing. It is not going to stop the maintenance that's going to be necessary to serve the citizens of our community. And so I think this is, and again, this is, you know, the issues I agree, you know, with respect to will he stay on his parents' health insurance? You know, he's eligible for retirement within a year. He's demonstrated over 12 months and greater that he is a valuable member of this team. And so this is one of those times where maybe we take a little bit of a leap of faith. Because I don't know either. I don't know, you know, with respect to everything that we've just approved in the budget. All right, I think some of that's going to change. I think it's going to have to. And with respect to capital expenditures and all the things that we're going to have to face in the coming days and months, but with respect to, I mean, Steve was our finance director for 19 years. He understands what we're facing as well and the economic difficulty. So on balance, and taking into consideration the concerns that everybody's expressing with our current climate, nevertheless, I would recommend that we take a little bit of leap of faith. We bring this proven employee on. We can't continue, as the mayor's indicated, to employ him as a temporary employee. It's violative of whatever it is. And so for all those reasons, I do support the adoption of the hiring of this employee.
You know, this employee may be the best employee we have in the city. I don't know. He might be an employee that I'd like to hire, and it's irrelevant. It has nothing to do with that. But we're in a unique time right now, and I absolutely agree with being positive, but at the same time, I think we need to be realistic, and we need to be cautious, and we need to be conservative with what we're doing. You know, and I've talked about this so many times, and I'm not going to go very deep into it. You know, we've spent money in the past to gain efficiencies, and through all of those efficiency gains that we're supposed to have gotten, our payroll has gone up tremendously. Our employee numbers have gone up by about 30 people. So for crying out loud, folks, you're going to tell me that out of those 30 people that we've hired in the past year, that we can't find somebody to help Steve out during this period of time to get us through the level that we're in right now? I mean, we've hired almost 30 additional people. And I know there's been people come and I know there's been people go. But at the same time, our numbers as far as employees are skyrocketing higher than they were just a few years ago. You know, and we talk about growth. And folks, we're not really looking at growth. We're looking at change. You know, and we may be seeing a lot more decline. You know, you're all reading the same thing I am as far as, you know, JCPenney's, you know, and I think that'll probably work out. But there's all kinds of businesses that are not going to survive. We need to be optimistic, we need to be positive, but we need to be fiscally responsible. And I just can't see how any of us could vote to do this.
Well, I'd like you all to make your own decisions, but I do want to correct a statement that Mr. Conley just made that is absolutely incorrect. We have not hired 30 new employees in the last year.
No, I didn't say in the last year. I said
Yes, you
years.
did.
Well, I will in the last years.
Yes.
Not year.
Correct.
Absolutely, I agree. Not
Okay.
in the last year,
So-
in the last 5 years.
just a
7
clarification.
years.
All right,
I apologize if I said year. That was not my intention.
that's fine. All right. Any other comments? Then I'll call for the question. All those in favor of hiring the temporary park employee as a full-time new hire for the city of Vienna, please signify by raising your right hand. I'm sorry. Okay. All those opposed? Motion carries 5-2. All right. That concludes our agenda for this evening. We move on now to council comments. Roger?
I'm just going to speak briefly about something that Brenda brought up there a little bit ago. I've been spending a lot of time, because I have a lot of time now, down at Spencer's Landing. And it seems like that every day, the people who go down there, the numbers are growing. You can get down there and you can sit and watch people bring their kids, unload their bicycles, and they go to town. Walking. A lot of people walking their dogs, playing dog frisbee. I was down there the other evening, just chilling out, and a couple teenage fellers pulled in and they grabbed about 2 big, what appear to be 5-gallon buckets out of the back of the car, and I thought, what are these guys going to do? So then they grabbed golf clubs out of the car, what looked like a driver, and they headed for the river. And I watched them, and those buckets must have been pretty full, because they stood there forever and just driving golf balls into the river. I think they were having a competition of who could drive the golf ball further. But anyway, having said all that, I had exactly the same thought that you did. The property had just been mowed, trimmed, it looked nice, and I thought, boy, wouldn't this be a great area to have some kind of activity. Have no idea what that activity would be, but you know, something down the road that you know, we could move in there and do, you know, maybe in conjunction with some agencies and retail, but it's a perfect property for that. So, but I had exactly the same thought as I was sitting there.
Brenda, you've asked a couple times about the handicap restrooms. Any restroom that's done must obviously be handicap accessible. Okay, I mean, that's a no give. I mean, it's given. It will be done. Okay. So, any other comments this evening? All right, I just have one. This is National Peace Officer Memorial Week. You'll notice that the flags will be placed at half-mast tomorrow. And so I'd like you to remember all the police officers that have worked protecting the way of life that we all enjoy, and, you know, give them a thanks whenever you can. But that's why the flags will be down tomorrow, and it'll be National Peace Officer Memorial Week all week. So with that, The next regular council session is scheduled for May the 28th, and we will have that council meeting, and the governor's regulations are going to be lifted to some degree. The city building will open for business on Monday, May 18th, and so when the 28th comes along, we should have the ability to have 25 people at a meeting instead of 10. So the city offices will open Monday. You won't be permitted to go inside the building, but you will be able to come into the front room and pay your water bill or do whatever you need. And then if you need a building permit or a business license or any of those things, we'll get the folks down and they'll handle it face-to-face through the glass partitions. The same thing at 60th Street for water sign-ups and payment of bills. That will also happen. They also have glass partitions now so that there is a level of protection for the employees and the citizens. So we still don't have any indication yet when the parks are going to be released. I have conversations every day with Mr. Black, and we've got lots of people that are wanting to use the dog parks and the tennis courts, and we just can't do it. The governor hasn't released it yet, but as soon as that happens, we'll get right on. I know Steve's maintaining all that, and no decision has been made from the health department in regard to swimming pools for this season. They have to give us a permit in order to open the swimming pool, and so every city in the state, some have canceled their pools for this year, but at any rate, we're waiting on a decision from the health department to determine whether or not we're actually even allowed to open the pool this year. So that's all the update I have